Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm your host, Juliet Clark, and we have another extraordinary guest today who's going to tell us a pretty good story about how she got from where she was to where she is today. But before we go there, I want to remind you guys to go over and take the Promote, Profit, Publish quiz. You can find it at www.promoteprofitpublishquiz.com. And also go over and check out our YouTube channel, Super Brand Publishing, and subscribe. If you are someone who's listening to these via podcast, great. If you're someone who engages more with video, you can go over there and actually see our guests and see the show notes and all that good stuff, the links about where you can contact these people. So today's guest is Robbie Walls, and she is the founder of the Walls Speak. Why can't I have a last name I can do that with? Clark kind of sucks. Like the Clark, I don't even know. So she's the author of 180 Momentum and the co-author in The Power of the Platform. She's a success coach, a speaker, a teacher, and she empowers women to embrace fear and activate courage. She teaches women to stretch and go for more and draw out their talent to release their inner brilliance. I feel like we all kind of need that right now. This brilliance is an expression of who they are becoming personally and professionally. And if you haven't figured it out yet as a woman, it's all interconnected because we have to try to achieve this thing called balance, which really doesn't exist. So Robbie spent 15 years teaching school, and I can't wait to hear what grade she taught. And while writing on the chalkboard one day, Robbie stopped mid-sentence, very dramatic, and turned to her classroom and said, "I'm done." Just like a mom does pretty much every day to her kids. So she suddenly realized that what she was doing was out of alignment with who she wanted to become. So welcome, Robbie. It's great to have you.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. So what grade did you teach?
Fourth grade.
Oh, okay. So it's not like the terrible ones yet, because I always point out to my friends that, you know, pretty much every middle school teacher we know has a drinking problem.
So middle school is a total different beast. You have to be called. I taught it and I said, whoa, no, not for me.
And when you say called, you mean you have to suffer from low self-esteem to be able to take on a challenge like that. You cannot possibly love yourself and be a middle school teacher. No, I'm just
oh my
kidding.
goodness. Yeah. No.
Teachers are great. No.
Teachers are great, but the middle school, those are special teachers. No, I am 100% so serious when I say they have to be called, because those kids are finding themselves and they are just on a different brainwave, and it's okay, but they are totally different.
They are.
No joke.
They are. And when we have middle school children, we thrive on sending them to school because we don't understand them either. It's a miserable age. It is just such a miserable age for kids. So that's why it's so bad for teachers. So congratulations. At least the fourth graders are still like, they're into their parents. They're not rebelling yet. They do what they're told.
They do what they're told. However, they are little tricky little keisters too. So yeah. And so that whole story about me saying I'm done, that is a true story, true talk. I literally, Emily and Hayden were actually fighting. They were, my back was turned. I'm on the chalkboard, and we were doing math, and it was raining outside. Emily does not like the rain. She gets scared. So Hayden started to tease her. And in the midst of this teasing, he literally pulled her hair, and they just started going at it. And then I turned around and said, I'm done. I am done. And they were like, oh, but Emily turned around and she said, I'm done too. I just will not ever forget that. She said, I'm ready to go home. She just had a meltdown. I was done. The class was like in an uproar. And it was just time that I knew that I had to shift.
Yeah.
True story, really happened. I will not ever forget it. Emily and Hayden at that moment.
Yeah. So you have a really compelling story about why you were shifting. You ended up, oh, it's my internet that's fairly unstable. Interesting. You ended up a widow pretty young.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So my husband was in the military and very healthy. And he served in the Gulf War twice. And yeah, he was a scud buster. So he was one of the big dogs over there in Iraq, and I had three small children, and he decided to get out of the Army. So when we got out of the Army, that first year, getting acclimated to the civil world, and we were in Connecticut, and just, we had been traveling and moving around a lot. But at this particular time, we had moved from Connecticut to Kentucky, and he had worked for General Electric as one of their general managers of New York, Connecticut, and he had that region. Well, within that region, we found out that he had started getting sick, and we didn't know what was going on. They were actually treating him for allergies and giving him allergy medicine. And one day he called me, and he was in the emergency room, and he literally had this huge tumor on his chest. So he lived for 6 months, and within that time span, me with three small children, I was only 32 years old, and when he did pass away, it was quite devastating. So I had three small little munchkins with me at the age of 32, and I had lived this whole military life, military wife, and it was quite devastating. So at that time, I knew I had to pivot really, really quickly and start doing things differently, from being that military wife, from being the wife that always was there for him and he was a provider. I was teaching, but not so much, not with the three small kids, but yeah. So
Wow.
That's how that whole story happened. And I just really found myself through the pain, but through that pain, I also grew up. You're 32, you've been around, but you haven't been around until you go through something like this at such a young age.
I can imagine. So that was a really pivotal moment for you, and you actually own some teaching centers now, but you have this coaching gig as well. Tell us about how that all happened.
So how that happened was, once I went back to school, got my master's degree in communications, and really wanted to expand it some more. So, and then I went to coaching school. And so I went and got a coaching certificate and began to talk to women about owning their power within. And that's what I really found within myself, is the power that I have to release out to the world, my voice, and to have the courage to do that. So within that courage, I really began researching courage, how to build programs, how to build systems. My first business was actually an alpaca business. Love animals. So my first business was an alpaca business, and that was pretty successful. And then when 2008 came around and the economy went down, that kind of went down as well. But then I started other business, started a travel business, and then I had my coaching business. So I did both of those and did a little bit of long-term teaching as well. So that was that whole bubble there. And then really I started to expand and started doing more. And as today we speak, I now own a Sylvan Learning Center, still in education, still love teaching, still love kids, but now I'm the owner, and tutoring is what I love to do as well. So and that's where I am. And I've written a couple of books, and I have a podcast too. So I have Bold Girl Biz podcast, and I just started that during this whole pandemic. So, and I talk about resilience, because I feel that my whole life has been very resilient, and I have come through a lot. And I want to help women because everybody doesn't really everybody has a different path, right? A path leads to a path, but your path really is for you. And sometimes people don't know how to connect with their path. They either resist it, they suppress it, they go through all these emotional problems that they're facing, and they don't know how to deal with it. So I am definitely that person to help you to move out and to pivot and to keep moving forward towards your dreams, towards your goals, and towards life, because life happens for all of us.
Yeah, it definitely does. So resilience seems to be a big buzzword right now too with COVID, because I feel like there are the people who are going about their everyday life, they wear a mask, but they just like, this is the flu and that's it. And then there are people who are
Yeah.
deathly afraid of it. And it's really polarized us. So when we talk about resilience, isn't it really about your ability to take ownership of your feelings and be responsible for where you're going versus victimhood?
So that is a absolute 100% great question. I'm going to put resilience, but I'm going to put a word in front of that, and that's called adaptive resilience. So that's what separates me from the whole resilient thing, because you do have to adapt
Mhm.
to what is going on today, right now. We don't know, right? Everybody's like, this is crazy.
Mhm.
They don't know what to do, but it's personalized for everyone, right? And to have adaptive resilience, you don't know what's going to happen, but you have to adapt to it. And that's what the whole world has done, is to adapt to it. And then we move towards whatever it is that we are supposed to do in the protective realm of this mask and people that are not wearing a mask. But just being respective and adaptive is all together.
Mhm.
One whole being resilient.
Yeah. And probably the mask wasn't a very good example of it, but I've noticed during this pandemic, there are two types of business people, or maybe even three. We've noticed that people that weren't online before are
Oh,
really struggling because this is not something you learn in a day or
correct.
a week or a month. A lot of us, it took us 2, 3 years to perfect and start really making money from it.
You
And
got
then there are those people who have really thrived in this environment that already had that set up. So um, I think some of the resilience in that case is having the ability to shift and just not throwing up your hands and saying, this is going to happen today.
Correct. And that, there are studies out there now where there's so much suppression, right? Suppression because of Zoom. Zoom fatigue is real.
Oh,
And uh,
yeah.
Zoom, Zoom fatigue, and all of the suppression around just the news, life. And to be resilient in that, we don't have to know what is ahead of us. We just have to walk in it. And whatever is for today, you really just have to adapt to it.
Mhm.
Because, but there are some people who shut down
Yeah.
and they're in their house and they don't want to go out. And fear has gripped I'm going to say their whole being. I know two people that will not step out, will not, because of fear, because of this pandemic,
Mm.
because of family members that are passing away. So it's very real. But to adapt in it, that's something that you have to do, because there's no other way around it, right?
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah, that is so true. And I don't mean to sound callous here about not stepping out, but in 2016 my mother died from the flu. And
Oh,
I think you have to, oh, well, that's okay. It was,
I mean, but
it happens. But one of the perspectives I have on what's going on right now is that there is a certain age group, they are susceptible, and we have to accept that. I
yes,
can't be mad because mom got the flu, but
right.
and I think we have to be really cognizant on, is our fear rational in these cases. And I remember back in 2008, remember the financial meltdown you just
Oh,
mentioned.
yes. Uh-huh.
I was in real estate back then, and one of our coaches, real estate coaches, quit watching the news.
Yes.
And it was amazing the difference in our sales when I was watching the news and I was fearful. I was like, nobody has money. And, I had all these preconceived notions because they were fear-based.
Fear-based.
And I stopped
Yep.
it and the sales went back up. I didn't have a belief to lock into. And I kind of feel like we're in that place now as well. You
We
can
are.
research. Yeah.
Yes. And you said some very powerful things. You said, I heard you say belief, and that's a big thing because all the things that we're hearing, once we believe it, it's attached to us. That becomes that fear. And then you said, once I let it go, I started getting sales again.
Right.
And you let that go. That is so major. And that was the problem that you solved instantly, right? It was intuitive to you that, what, I just got to let this go. I can't. So, yeah.
Well, but I think it's very, back then, I'm one of those people, if you tell me I can't do it, I'll just be like, I'm gonna probably flip you off and then just say, watch me. But back then I started a business in 2010 and everybody back that you can't start a business. There's no economy.
Right.
But I think the lesson in that though is just lately I've remembered that about 2008 and I quit watching the news. I turned it off. Whoever's going to be president is going to be president. Whoever dies from COVID is going to die from COVID. Whoever, it's independent of me. So I think that lesson, you not only have to break that belief, but then when you start getting caught up in it, you have to catch yourself and let it go again. Would you agree with that?
That's 100%. And that's so good because you said, catch it and then let it go. Right?
Yeah.
Let it go. You're one person and you can't change anything right now. You're doing the right thing by whatever you want to do. Wear your mask, hand sanitize, do whatever. That is, that's what we're doing now to stay protected and taking the correct supplements, whatever intuitively you feel for your body that you need is key.
Yeah.
Nothing fear-based around that.
That's so interesting. You just hit on my pet peeve in all of this. Can I share what it is?
Please do.
So in all this fear, all this fear mongering, I don't ever hear, you said supplements. I don't hear them telling people, go out and walk, exercise, cut back, lose weight, get healthy, take supplements. I don't hear any of that. It's just fear, 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 fear. So I think that's where I get that you have to take responsibility for where you're at and do what's necessary to keep yourself healthy, but in a healthy way.
In a very healthy way.
And that's that when we're talking about fear mongering, I don't get why they're not telling people these things like that. You're just high risk and you can't ever change that. That's not true.
Right. And so what drives the media? Fear. That's just like we have the housewives of Atlanta, the housewives of, it's everybody wants the chaos, right? Everybody wants the chaos because it drives drama, right? Driving drama drives money, drives whatever. So, and that's where that's coming from.
Yeah. So funny you should mention that. One of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills used to be a client of mine. And no offense, folks, I'm not going to name who it is, but she's a mess. Oh my God, is she a mess? Like they must look for a mess when they produce a show like that. How messy are you? Do they really? Because what a mess.
They do. Yeah. So absolutely. So that's what drives it. Fear, if we take out the whole word fear, it's so loosely used, but it is so real. If we just walk and by the path that we know to be true to us, we don't have to have any fear. Do what you're supposed to do. If it happens, then deal with it at that time, right? Know what to do. Have a plan. Everybody should have a plan. I have a plan. So get a plan. But having fear around this, staying up all night, not sleeping, always just thinking about it. Come on, let's just live.
No, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I found my sister here. So tell us about Bold Girl Biz. What are you doing with women with Bold Girl Biz?
Oh my goodness. So Bold Girl Biz, I'm gonna step out there. So that is me, Robbie Walls.
That's what happens when you have a background.
From failure to fearless. So that is my jam. This is my jam. And Bold Girl Biz is what I do is I interview women who have gone through failure. Would that be anyone out there?
I fail more. I have to tell you a quick story.
Yes.
One of somebody was at our house and one of my kids came home and he was whining. Now we all know which kid, because I only have one he's whining about something he failed at. And I looked at him and I said, get over yourself. You're going to fail every damn day of your life. And when I left with my friend, she's like, do you really think that's something inspirational you should have told your child? And I was like, it's the truth.
It's the truth. And not only is it the truth, it's something to wake you up. Like, oh, okay. And that's what I teach. So through failure, there's always fruit in it, right? Mm-hmm. There's always fruit in failure. And so what I interview women entrepreneurs who have businesses, who have gone through some very tough times, very things that failure, but it's funny in it, right? Like, I am very colorful. I'm very funny. I want to know what's funny and what's fun in your failure, because I know that that's the fruit. And then we learn from that. So these are all the lessons learned from all entrepreneurs about failure, about how they built their business and how they overcome it and where they are today. So it's a very powerful interview with women and all of the lessons learned that we can take as entrepreneurs and grow from that.
Wow. And there's so many lessons. Like, which failure do you choose? But you're right about the fruit. You're right about the fruit part, because even when you're in the midst of it, if you can just, I don't know how many times, like, seriously, I have like stopped midday. I've failed at something. I've walked out the door, gone for a walk, and I'm like, screw it. Screw it. I'm quitting. I'm going to find a job. And then I sleep on it. I wake up in the morning and I go, yeah, not so much. A job doesn't sound, a job does not sound like anything I want.
Right.
So, but I mean, there are those points where you get frustrated, but you really, there comes that word resilience again. You have to be able to pick yourself up and say, I can do this.
Right. I can do this.
Yeah. I can be really fearless about it.
Yes. And so let's talk about that word frustration. So that whole big word frustration, it's actually a gift. I know that you won't think about it as a gift, but I want you to shift your mind totally different, because frustration is a gift. And when I say gift, I mean, it is there for you in your frustration, in that moment of feeling all that, I'm so sick of this, I'm giving up. That is the lesson that you need to stop and look and see what God is telling you, what the universe is telling you right now, because that is a failure, and there is something to be said about frustration.
Oh, I agree. When you do that, and I think a lot of frustration is you can't control what's going on, and if you can acknowledge that and say, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and I can just let this go. We're doing a lot of letting go today. My experience with that is, instead of persuading people, because a lot of times there's somebody else involved you can't control. Instead of persuading people to come to your side, if you just let it go, most of the time they end up coming and doing exactly what you want them to do.
Yeah, that is so true. That is so true. Yep, that is very true. And that's the walk. Right? That's the walk. Once they see you doing it, and they know that they need to conform. I don't want to say need to, but it's just intuitively destined for them to go ahead and do exactly what you're going to want them to do. It's just the inevitable, right?
Yeah, it is. You need to write a book about letting go of the F words. I think we've just had like fearless, frustrated. What's that other one behind it?
Yeah. What is it? Failure.
Yeah. So you need to write a book about letting go of those F words.
I love it. Yes, yes. But you know what? That word fearless, that's what I want. And that's what I want to instill in women, to have that confidence piece, to have courage. It's all about who you are. And when I work with my clients, I work with the who, because sometimes we can build our ladder up on the wrong building. And when that happens, we're not who we are. I know that when I was teaching back way years ago, when that happened to me, I had served that time. Like I've gone to school, I've done, the teaching part, but at that moment, I didn't want it anymore. So life changes, life shifts, and to recognize that is key. Mm-hmm. And then we start finding out who we are and who we're going to become. This is the path. A path leads to a path, and everyone has a different path. I help you to find out who you are. My favorite movie of all time is the Wizard of Oz.
I actually love the Wizard of Oz. I have a favorite saying from it.
Yes.
You've always had the power, dear. You just didn't know how to use it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. Glenda said, "Oh, I couldn't tell you. You had to find it out for yourself, So I have that. That is my favorite too. But the whole movie is what I have based my life upon. I see myself as Dorothy, because all you have to do is just find out who you are, and that's that power. She always had the power. Mm-hmm. All of them had the power. And then here we have the Wizard of Oz, the Oz, saying, when they were all around the green, the green glow and all that. And then the wizard says, he actually asked him, who are you? He goes, I am the great and powerful Oz. Who are you? Who are you? He literally asked the question, who are you? Because it does start with the who. Mm-hmm. Who we are becoming. My voice, your voice, needs to go out to the world. We all have a gift and have a talent that needs to be shared out to the world.
That is so, so true. So where can we find you, Robbie? I'm sure people are going to want to reach out and find out how to be less fearless.
Oh, thank you. So I have moved in this world, this digital platform, I have moved everything to digital. So you can text the word bold, BOLD, to 55312. Text the word bold. That's where you can find me. You can also find me at robbiespeaks.com. And my phone number, give me a text too, 314-277-3222. You can't miss those twos. There's power in the two, okay?
There is, and I've never seen anybody do that thing you do with the background, no background. I'm invisible, yes. I'm visible. Nice. Yes. Great. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.